my response to Jacob's question set 3. Question number 1. Per the lecture videos, we were personally asked if education is a logical pursuit under dangerous conditions. In the bigger picture, is school worth it in a volatile and historically violent areas where they can be and remain targets of violence? I think it's worth it. I think that education, in a way, is a pathway to freedom, and I think if you're an oppressed person, it's kind of I think, without getting too idealistic, freedom, life without freedom to some people may not be life at all. I think that you have to kind of to live your life, you have to take some risks to be able to live it the way you want and to be happy with what the life that you lead. And then I also think that there's a certain element of what part of society are you born in? Are you maybe not worth the danger if you're a higher class person that doesn't have doesn't face a lot of struggles, but if you're really, really poor and there's nothing left to lose, I think it's worth it to go after education to try to better yourself and get out of the situation you're in. Question 2. In 2009, after the Taliban took over of Swat Valley, the Taliban threatened to attack all schools that allowed women to attend. At the same time, Malala wrote a series of diary entries for the BBC that told the story of her life under the Taliban rule. Eventually, Fazal Hayat loosened his threats and allowed women to return to schools. Are you surprised by the success Malala's diary entries seem to have had? I'm not surprised. I think that regardless of what area of the world or society that you happen to live in, public opinion is always a force, and I think that Malala's story helped shape public opinion and inform people of things that were going on that they were maybe not aware of before. So I'm not really surprised in a way. I think it's more inspiring than anything. I think that it gives people an example, with the kind of political climate we're in right now. I hope it inspires more people to kind of take action and stand up to the kind of misinformation and oppression that we're kind of now faced with. 3. Education in the Middle East often takes a backseat to politics and religion. If you're religious, in what ways has religion or politics affected your education? I grew up very religious, so I feel like I have the knowledge base. I was baptized as a teenager, and I took, I've read enough of the Bible to know what it's about. And when I was old enough to start kind of thinking for myself, I left the church that I grew up in. And I would say that, I think that my education was affected by it because once I stopped focusing so much on an entity that may or may not exist and what his or its expectations may or may not be, I think that a lack of religion actually affected my education more. I think I was turned into a better critical thinker, and I think that we can't worry and wonder about this world of mysticism. I think it really muddies the water, and there are a lot of policies out there that are purely opposed because of religious beliefs. I think people should have the right to death with dignity. I think that we should be able to women should have the right to abort a pregnancy. I think that we don't need to discriminate against the LGBT community. These are all things that are usually kind of opposed in the name of religion, which I think is super wrong. So yeah, I think that religion into politics into education. I think religion affects the education, which cause politics that may be less informed. And question 4. As quoted from I Am Malala, education is education. We should learn everything, then choose which path to follow. Education is neither Eastern nor Western. It's human. What does this quote mean to you? I think that education in its purest form is just that. I think it's most people have a good sense of what's inherently good. I think that when you're talking about human rights issues, unless you've been heavily influenced by something, most people kind of know what feels right and feels good, and is going to benefit society and the world. And unfortunately, a large portion of the population is influenced by other forces. So I guess what it means to me is that humanity, I feel, is inherently good, and that knowledge is also good, and that we have to, preserve that for humans, regardless of where they come from. So, like in a broad sense, I think that knowledge is power. We just have to make sure that the knowledge is correct.